Well, to tell us more about this, I'm joined by the Health Justice Initiative Director, Fatima Hassan. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us. So, the European Union hasn't confirmed this, am I right? What are you hearing?
So what we've been told by the African Union envoy for vaccine acquisitions, according to a press conference that they held yesterday, was two things. The one is that Aspen would no longer export any new batches of filled and finished vaccines to Europe or any other parts of the global north. And in fact, those vaccines would be prioritized for all of the countries in Africa that are waiting for the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, for which they've already paid for. And then we were also told that there was a commitment, which we are awaiting confirmation from the European Union and the European Union commissioners, indicating that the vaccines that already left our shores, you'll remember there was a New York Times article a few weeks ago indicating about 32 million vaccines that had left South Africa for Europe, that those vaccines presumably may be returned to Africa or an equivalent amount. So obviously there's a lot of unanswered questions. And we need to make sure that the European Union actually confirms this. We need details relating to the delivery schedules, the return dates, and more transparency on all of these contractual arrangements.
All right, so what I'm hearing from you is that the AU seems to have confirmed that those doses are coming back to Africa, but you'll be more comfortable when you hear the European Union itself saying, absolutely, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah, and I think we'll all be more comfortable when we actually see the vaccines landing in Africa and actually delivered to the countries that are still waiting for vaccines. You'll remember we've had a year of many, many promises of lots of deliveries that were meant to have happened months ago, but they don't often materialize. So as activists, we're really waiting for the vaccines to actually hit the ground before we'll be able to congratulate anybody on this particular measure. A measure, you'll remember, Sally, you and I have spoken about this contract before, which is why we said we needed transparency on it. A measure that is, quite delayed. So for months, these exports have been happening, and it seems that the EU, the AU, and even our own president may not have known about it. So I think the second question we have to ask is, who knew about these exports? And why did it take so long? And why did it take, investigative journalists at the New York Times and civil society pressure to shine a light on this particular issue for the exports to actually stop?
I mean, what I've been told by some is that it was always mentioned that these vaccines could be exported across the world. Do you still see that as not being as upfront as possible then?
Well, the first problem with that is that the New York Times revealed that the contract with the South African government, not even the contract between Aspen and Johnson & Johnson, has the export restriction waiver, which basically is, I think, an element that was not fully disclosed to everybody before around the leverage that Johnson & Johnson used in order to supply vaccine to South Africa to be able to get the unlimited right to send as many doses as it wishes, that it would determine in the middle of a pandemic. And the second issue with that is that Africa really needed these vaccines. Many countries in Africa actually paid for it, including South Africa. And the priority, the VIP customer, was actually Europe and other parts of the world, wasn't Africa, as we were entering wave 3, which is why we were all puzzled and wondering where our vaccines were for months. In fact, most of it is still not even delivered. So, I think this goes back to what we've been saying for months. We really need greater transparency. All of these contracts should now be open. They should all be revised. We need to see the delivery schedules. And when necessary, because we are in a global pandemic, we have to start diverting doses, and we have to start changing the delivery destinations on a number of these vaccine contracts.
It certainly seems that in terms of vaccine supply, we are for now in fairly safe territory. I wanted to ask you a question. We've got a new health minister, Joe Phaahla. We have seen, of course, the previous health minister leave under a cloud. More details coming out this week about the Digital Vibes tender scandal. Concerns that it's going to further shake up the health department. What are you hearing? Are you concerned that we could be in for a period of great instability within that department?
Yeah, we've just had an acting DG of health now appointed in the last 24 hours. We've had so much of change and acting appointments and new appointments in the Department of Health, mostly related to the digital vibes scandal and, this cloud of corruption that is hanging over the department. How you scale up the vaccine program and deal with the issue of vaccine hesitancy now with an election that is upon us, given the Constitutional Court's ruling today, does mean that you need a department that has to be fully prepared to be able to take on not just the issues in relation to the national vaccine rollout program, but also
just on the acting. I just need to jump in. The acting DG, which of course is now Nicholas Crisp, what we've heard is it's purely for a 10-day period because Sandile Buthelezi is away.
So the information that we have is that the letter of appointment says until further notice. And so what we're confused about is this new story about the 10-day leave period. And I think that needs to be, properly clarified by the department. So something we believe is afoot. And I think that we're just being told, multiple versions of the same story. And there isn't really a lot of transparency and accountability. But it goes to the heart of what we've been saying. If you make the person who's in charge of the vaccine rollout program also the acting DG during this time, what does that mean for the national vaccine rollout program? And you use the word a safe supply system. We would say partially, because we are getting sufficient supplies on a weekly basis from Pfizer. We're still not getting enough of our supplies from Johnson & Johnson. If we deal with the issues of vaccine hesitancy in our country, and we are actually able to get a lot more people to the vaccination centers and sites, then we certainly would need more supplies. And remember that, a couple of million people still have to get their second dose of the Pfizer vaccine.
Thank you so much for chatting to us this evening and clarifying so many important matters on the health front. That's Health Justice Initiative Director Fatima Hassan.